This is The Dig on the Huskers Radio Network podcast. Powered by Emeritus. Featuring Nebraska volleyball assistant coach Jaylen Reyes. Here's your host, Jessica Cootie.
Welcome back into another episode of The Dig. And this week's guest, welcome back, Jaylen Reyes.
Thanks for having me. Great. Everything's great.
You know, I mean, consecutive sweeps up to 11, consecutive sets won up to 34. What is there to talk about anymore?
Well, we have a big one on Friday.
No, we do. Always something. You guys always, even when you win and it looks easy, always are finding things that you can nitpick and improve on.
For sure. The battle is, and if I'm being honest, because I feel this way too, right? You just, you almost feel like you have to be negative Nancy as a coach, especially like in my role where I'm almost we're doing these things well, but, and of course you always tend to, even in meetings with the players or with the staff, you always tend to spend more time talking about, I shouldn't say the negatives, but what we need to get better at is probably a better way to say it. So you can come across as, I don't know, negative, or I like to say constructive, or ways to get better. Yeah. But yeah, there's, you know, even though, yes, we've been winning a lot of matches and performing really well in terms of the wins and loss column, there's still a ton of things that we can get better at. And Friday night against Wisconsin is going to be a huge test for us.
Yeah, one of the things that I've been asked a lot about is just, are you concerned that this team hasn't really been faced with a lot of adversity this season? And I know last week we talked with Danny about just the practices, and you guys do it in practice, but can you match that? Can you replicate that kind of adversity that you might face in a match in practice?
I would say yes and no. Adversity sometimes, I don't know. I always say this too, right? Like there's years where we've maybe blown a set or two against maybe a team that we shouldn't have lost a set to. Mm-hmm. And that could be labeled as adversity, but it's more, we would be sitting here talking about, oh, how come we didn't finish a certain set, right? So this year's team just has different challenges, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. You know, a lot of it is, you know, staying motivated. Can we still look through, hey, the wins and losses and what we can get better at? You know, even if we were losing sets or losing matches, we would still like push them to, you know, hey, these are areas we need to get better at. I would say in practices are really, really competitive. I mean, just there's, you know, I think Husker fans out there can see there's a lot of talent in the gym. You know, I would also say this, right? It's one of those things where it's kind of hard to, hey, let's walk into a match. We're going to lose a set and maybe get down 2-0.
So we can learn from it.
Yeah, so we can learn from it, right? So there's, at the end of the day, each game is like a test, and you're trying to pass the test. And when you take a test, you're not trying to get an answer wrong to like hopefully barely just skate by. So we look at it as, hey, you know, maybe we're playing an opponent that's not, you know, a brand name school in terms of volleyball aspects of things, or maybe they're not playing as well as that team should be playing right now. There's still like individual and, you know, team goals that we're trying to reach each match. And so much so, yes, it is about winning and losing, but at the same time, there's certain metrics or there's certain behaviors that we're looking for as a staff that we try to hold the players accountable to. And it's not just, hey, did we win tonight or did we lose? You know, Danny goes through a couple of goals before each match, and at the end of the match, whether we didn't win or lose, we've only won so far this season, but we're also like, hey, did we accomplish this thing we talked about as a team going in? So I think that's another way we've been trying to challenge and motivate people. And then I think the other thing too is, you know, sometimes adversity hits as, hey, we have new players out there, right? Mm-hmm. Sometimes teams, they put in different players, or someone's struggling, they put somebody in. That doesn't necessarily mean it's going to keep rolling. And, you know, credit to, you know, we've subbed in a few players throughout these weeks of matches to where, hey, we expect them to go in and not, the standard doesn't change, or it's not like, oh, we put a couple of backups in. Hey, the metrics or the goals from the beginning of the match that change, it's kind of on them too to help make sure that we hit those standards. So, you know, sure. Have we played a 5-set match? I don't know. I think that's probably what you're asking. Have we played a 5-set match recently? No. But at the end of the day, like for us, the goal is to go out and win 3 sets by 2 points. And if it comes in 3, 4, 5, awesome. So, on Friday, hey, we have no idea. I'm expecting 5 rounds every time we go play our buddies up north. They always push us, and it's always a really good measuring stick, I think, for both programs. So I don't expect Friday night to be any different.
Is Harper Murray playing her best volleyball? How much higher is her ceiling?
Harper's playing really well. Last couple weeks, I think she's been challenged in different areas by certain teams. So that's been a nice wrinkle. I would, full transparency, teams are in the last couple weeks served her a little bit more than maybe the previous month. So that's kind of been a different rhythm for her, I guess. But all in all, I mean, she's playing a really, really high level right now. Are there certain areas where she can get better at? Yes, I would say for her, it's not necessarily like, okay, for her, getting better is going to look like, can she just keep being more consistent, and, maybe as a passer, become more consistent. As an attacker, maybe not consistency is the word, but can she kill balls in certain areas of the court that maybe she's not as comfortable hitting the ball to, if that makes sense, So I think for her, being more consistent is why I think a lot of people are feeling that she's playing better. It's just she's at the peak longer than maybe years past, where years past she's reached this level, but then it dips down a little bit, and it kind of hangs out underneath, and then she makes it back up there. I think this year she's been really good about being toward the top of her game for longer stretches of time.
Danny was talking after the Michigan State match that, a lot of times she's getting the out-of-system sets or the not perfect sets, and she's handling those really well. What goes into that for her, and what has gone into that for her to be able to handle those, that she's not always getting the, hey, perfect set, in-system, all of that? Right.
I think it's a part of that is just going through it and just learning when. I like to use the like a traffic light analogy, right? So, hey, there's times where the green light is green. That means floor it through the intersection, right? Versus, hey, this is maybe a yellow red light situation. I kind of maybe have to be a little more passive. I'm looking what's going on in the crosswalk. I'm looking to slow it down and maybe get the ball on the setter, hit those balls in, right? And just because it's a green light situation, that doesn't mean
floor it.
Yeah, that doesn't necessarily mean. Yeah, that doesn't necessarily mean you have to kill this ball. But there's times where you can be a little more aggressive, and we need her to be a little more aggressive. I think for me, during matches, especially these last 3 or 4 weeks, I'm pushing her to Harp, it's okay if you make certain errors in those green light situations, because we need you to score points. Versus, I think people, especially here in the United States, it's always, hey, keep the ball in. Don't get me wrong. Yeah, we don't want our players just hitting balls out of bounds or getting blocked or hitting the net. But it reaches a certain point where certain teams, like the one we're going to play on Friday, it's sometimes not just good enough to hit the ball in. You have to be able to score. So, hey, green light situations, can you score? Yellow light situations, can you improve your chances to score? And then, hey, if it's a not so great set, if it's way off the net, you're out of rhythm, I don't know, you're underneath the ball, all these different situations, can you put the ball into the court but find a way to stress the other team and not just give them a free ball or hit it, roll shot it right to the libero to where they can attack it back at us? Can you make it harder on the other team to attack us? And I feel like those red light, yellow light situations she's a lot better at than maybe years past. And a lot of that just comes with experience, if I'm being upfront.
Love your analogies. You always bring a good one for us every time you're on the pod. That makes perfect sense, though. I mean, that was broken
and during the green light, when I say green light, it's a great set. Maybe it's a bad pass, but Lainey Choboy, Olivia Mock, Bergen Riley, Campbell Flynn, they get the ball high up to the net. Those are those green light situations where it's Harper's in rhythm. She's jumping as high as she can. She has the option to hit the ball as hard as she wants, wherever she wants. Versus those other situations, maybe the ball's further off the net. Maybe it's a little wide. Maybe it's way too far inside. Maybe it's a combination of two or the three. Maybe it's a little low. Or maybe she's already at the net, the ball kind of gets ping-ponged around and she gets set and she doesn't get a great, 3 or 4 step approach into it. Those are those situations where, hey, if it's still a good set, but maybe you're out of rhythm, can you still find a way to score? So I think fans are starting to see her maybe like grab it and throw it a little more into the block. Maybe it trickles through the blocker where it doesn't look like she should score a point, but she does. And then in those red light situations, those are the situations, I would say, one, can you avoid making errors or getting blocked, right? Can you not hurt us in that situation? But the elite attackers, like Harper's becoming or has become, can you make it to where you're going to give the other team the ball, right? We're just going to hit it in. Can you hit it at somebody or in an area or hard enough or short enough or in the correct location so it's not just really simple for the other team to just pass set and hit it back at us, right? Yeah. Those two situations are where a good attacker becomes great, if that makes sense. Because the better attacker you are, the more sets you're going to get. And the more sets you get, the more variability of green, yellow, and red you're going to get. Versus, when you're new, you typically only get the green light situations because maybe the setter doesn't feel comfortable to set you in those like bigger moments. Harp and Bergen obviously have developed a relationship where she's going to get, all 3 colors, and now it's on Harper to kind of figure it out, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so I've saved this question for you over the last, I guess it's been about a month, but Manaya Obeche continues to play really, really well. And so it was a conversation between JB, Lauren on the broadcast. And I know you guys are really happy with all of your outsides, but they were joking, why don't you move Andy over to right side and let Manaya play middle blocker? But why is Andy more of a middle blocker than she is an outside?
A lot of it has to do with her arm swing. If I'm being honest, it's she's so gifted off one foot. And what I mean by that is like the slide attack she hits behind Bergen when she jumps off one leg, whether it's all the way out to the pin or right behind Bergen. The nice little wrinkle we mix in there. Playing opposite is such a different game than playing middle. You have to be able to attack high balls a little more. So kind of those situations I was talking about where right now Andy's really good because she's more in those green and yellow light situations versus when you play opposite, sometimes just depending on where the match goes, you might only get red light situations, and that doesn't mean she can't be successful. Heck, there's part of me and there's part of, the volleyball world here in the United States that think maybe Andy eventually will end up playing opposite, So then this is not me like breaking anything here on the podcast. I promise that we're, but that it's actually a really, really good question if I'm being totally upfront with you, just because, I could see there's a world where she could end up maybe, I don't know, potentially in her professional life or in the future here at Nebraska where Andy could end up playing opposite. So, but right now we just feel like she's so efficient in those green and yellow light situations where it's a really good set, or it's like in the medium system where we're setting her from slightly off the net. We don't want her to get bogged down right now with having to deal with those like reddish light situations, if that makes sense.
And I know she came in really green, but I mean, her athleticism obviously is just off the charts. And when we watch her play, she could do everything. So it's like, hey, why can't she do that? But no, that also makes sense. But, I feel like she's one too that whatever I can do, I want to learn it and get better at it.
Right. And there's going to be some things I think in the future that we can tweak with Andy. So that way that could, I don't know, maybe be a possibility down the road, there's certain things in athletes where, especially in their development process, where there's like these short-term projects, and then there's things where you're working on that maybe we won't come to fruition in the near future. They're like, I call them long-term projects where certain things, and we have them for not just Andy, but for a lot of players, you're investing some time in certain things that maybe could become long-term projects, and that could be one. There's going to be some things where, we do, even in matches, she's starting to hit a couple more high balls on the right, just organically through the game. There was a big one against Purdue in the first set where it was like back and forth, and She actually got blocked on a slide, the typical set. And then it was Harper that actually ended up just setting. There was only 2 front row attackers. So Harper ended up just setting her a high ball on the right, and she killed it. And so you're starting to see like glimpses of it. But right now, I think there's a lot of tinkering, but there's a couple of things that, especially for Andy, that in the future, hopefully we can add to her game to help her get better and help this team get better.
When you talk arm swings, and that was one thing that was brought up about Virginia, when she's really going, she can swing it hard. Is that something that you're born with, you can get better at, you can swing harder? I mean, how does that develop where you have this arm that is just above everybody else?
Right. I think, okay, so arm swing, there's 2 different things. Basically, when you look at an arm swing, and you might get different opinions, but this is the way I look at it. An arm swing for me is like, one, your ability to hit the ball hard, right? It's kind of, I like in football, they always say like recruiting, it's an arms race. Well, in volleyball, it literally is an arms race. Like we are looking for, when we go out recruiting, we're trying to find people that can hit the ball hard. And in the beginning, especially when they're younger, I don't even care if they hit it in. It's really hard to upgrade someone's arm in terms of if you can't hit the ball hard. I'm not saying you can't improve it, but there's like a certain limit of how much harder you're going to be able to hit the ball, if that makes sense. Just because when you think about like a volleyball arm swing is it's similar to like a throwing motion. And you think about it, most people learn how to throw when they're young. So they've just been doing the same movement pattern for a long period of time, especially when you think about it, when they get to us, they're 18 to 22 years old. So that's a lot of years of like, this motion that's been replicated over and over again in their lives. So for me, it's like when we're trying to find people that can hit the ball hard, like that's number one, and whether they play opposite, left side, middle, like for me, the first thing is, do they hit the ball hard? And a lot of it has, also comes from hand contact, but just the way they biomechanically they swing their arm and how they use their body and the sequence of like body and then shoulders, and then obviously kind of the end of the chain is their arm and their hand, how it comes through the ball. But like a lot of it too is also her approach mechanics. So when Virginia is playing really well, especially like more recent, she's like, we talk about how to hit a ball hard. You want to build momentum. One, because you want to jump high, and then you want to hit hard, right? Like in the simplest form, that's like attacking a volleyball, right? We talk about Andy Jackson. When she's rolling, that's what she does, right? She jumps high and she hits hard, and she jumps a lot higher than most people, right? But if you watch her approach, the way you jump high efficiently is you have to start your approach really slow because you have to time the ball, right? That's the one thing. It's not like jumping and hitting a vertex, right? The ball doesn't just sit there and then it's this non-moving thing, right? There's a timing correlation that goes on with hitting a volleyball. So when Virginia's playing really well, that sequence is really, really efficient. So she starts her approach really slow with small steps, and right before she jumps, she's taking faster and bigger steps. And that's how anyone would jump. If you were to run and jump and try to touch something really high, you would probably start almost walking and then basically start running. And that has to coincide with how you swing your arm. So when she's playing really well, a lot of it is just her getting her feet to the ball efficiently, going really fast, and then her letting her arm swing take over. Yeah. If that makes sense. So most of the time when her when we look like we're not in rhythm, a lot of it has to do with like our feet, and then that's like the beginning of the chain. Everyone sees like, oh, we mishit a ball or we hit it out. Most of the time, it's the problem at the beginning of the chain that is, one of the things I think I say to Virginia all the time is get your feet to the ball, slow to fast, and get your feet to the ball. Not necessarily hit it line, hit it angle, hit it high. If I feel like if she takes care of that beginning portion, then she can hit it hard, she can tip it, she can hit it line, angle, over, sharp cross more efficiently because now she has all the options available to her because she's jumping high and be able to hit the ball hard, if that makes sense.
Yeah, fascinating. Okay, we've talked about it a little bit, but big one coming up on Friday at Wisconsin, Halloween in Madison, and then back at home against Oregon. What do these matchups look like for you guys this weekend?
Yeah, I mean, Wisconsin is top tier program for sure. They a lot of respect for that coaching staff. They've been together a while. They added some really, obviously they added an Olympian in Lauren Carlini, John Shondell, brother Dave Shondell at Purdue. So just loaded coaching staff, loaded team. Have one of the best players in the country in Mimi Collier. He used to play for Oregon, which is kind of funny. We're playing her on the same week. Just she's gonna be in a different jersey. Carter Booth is probably one of the best middle blockers in the country, and feel like we've been competing against her forever too. They have a really nice mix of really talented freshmen that, have gotten some experience because they've all gotten to play quite a bit in the last, in this Big Ten season. And then, we're playing just like when I was talking about when we went to Penn State, like one of the other best college volleyball environments in the country, as in the Fieldhouse in Madison. So I expect nothing but a challenge. They're a really good serving team. They have some really nice attackers, but I think definitely led by, Mimi Collier and Carter Booth. And they're a handful. Mimi Collier has always been a handful for us Husker volleyball fans out there, and know like she used to play for Oregon, and so talented and so smooth, and she can attack from the front row, back row, behind the setter, in front of the setter. So we're gonna have our hands full. And then, Carter Booth at the net is, at 6'7", however tall she is, she's an impressive, physicality, and just I also think just she's like a big time competitor without knowing her personally. When she plays hard, and I feel like she gets the rest of that group to play hard, and they're really well coached and stuff like that. So that's always going to be a challenge for us. And then, Oregon's different. They have a different staff, pretty much a whole new team. When that staff left for Kansas, a lot of those players ended up transferring, just like Mimi Collier, to Wisconsin. But they got some transfers come in. They have some really talented freshmen, and they're playing really well right now. They beat UCLA and Minnesota in the last few weeks. They pushed Wisconsin on Sunday, a really tight fourth set, where I believe they got to 21 first in all 4 sets. So that match could have gone either way. So, two honestly very different styles of play too, in terms of one has a freshman setter, one's got an older setter that transferred in. One's a little more middle outside dominant. The other ones are a little more like they set it a little quicker, as in Oregon, and then they set their opposite a ton from the front row and the back row. So 2 different styles. So that's going to present 2 different challenges, but obviously looking forward to it this weekend.
So closing out with a little bit of a fun one, I guess. I saw recently Harper roped you into doing a TikTok, and you're sitting here, you're still coaching. So obviously your singing wasn't good enough to quit your day job.
Yeah, yeah, it's crazy because I don't have TikTok, so I never actually see them. It's kind of funny. I'm in a group chat with a bunch of buddies that always, they'll send like funny TikToks about sports. And I just laugh because I'm like, oh, this has got to be funny, but I can't open it. For those who know, if you don't have the app, you can't see any of the videos, right? So I'll just get random texts from people about, sometimes I just do the TikToks. And if you're watching, sorry, no offense, but I just do them because I'm trying to do something. So I figured if I say no, they'll just keep bugging me. So I just do it real quick because it's I can keep moving to whatever I'm doing next, I believe we sang a Sam Smith song, right?
Yeah, it's one of the trends that's going on. People act like they can sing, and then it's usually bad.
Yes.
And no offense, but you were not very good either.
None of us were really good. So that's.
But that's part of what makes it funny.
Yes, that's what's funny, So I think it was me. I think T. Sigler definitely carried the team there, and then Taylor Lanfear was pretty good. But yeah, I'm not gonna lie. When you said that, when you first started this question, Jess, there's part of me that's like,
oh
which
boy,
TikTok is
which one?
About, I'm like, I did one the other day with Lainey too, and they're just all you have to do is go like this somehow, and then of course Ryan, Hunter, and everybody else is around me and doing something else. So it's I would just say this: I'm happy I'm included. I don't know if I bring any value besides maybe the entertainment factor purely for the kids, but yeah, I'm happy to be included.
But listen, it helps you be relatable to a generation that you're recruiting that's absolutely on TikTok and watching all that stuff.
I mean, we have club coaches, high school kids that text me saw your TikTok with Harper, and I'm like, great. I haven't seen it, and hopefully it doesn't. Hopefully hopefully it's okay. I'm like, I have no idea. Sometimes you get lost in them. So I'm like, cool, awesome. Like pretend like I know what they're talking about.
I think it's funny. I thought it was great. I just had to give you a hard time about it because that was the last one that I saw that you were in was the singing competition, and you're here, so you haven't. You didn't get a call from Nashville
good.
or anything.
We're good so far.
Some great stuff as always. Appreciate talking to you, and best of luck this weekend.
Thanks. Go Big Red.
Jaylen Reyes here with us on The Dig. Emeritus is proud to power The Dig and all of Husker women's sports. Thanks for listening and watching, and make sure you subscribe and like wherever you listen to never miss an episode right here on the Huskers Radio Network podcast.